Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Chris Campbell, and welcome to a very special episode of Legible Scrawls to Prove a Villain. We are behind the scenes today with a bunch of my fellow actors, as well as the creative lead on our project. And am I the only one that can talk right now? Can everyone say hi?
Hi.
Hi.
Hello.
Lots of faces.
Excellent. And we are doing a Google Hangouts for this, so I apologize ahead of time for any technical mishaps we may have. We're very new to this, but it's very fun. We all get together, and we don't get to do that very often, do we, guys?
Nope.
Not nearly enough.
No. All right, let's go. Let's go around and introduce ourselves. Kyle, let's start with you.
Start with me. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm Kyle. I'm the head writer and sort of creative major domo of this thing. Started the ball rolling and then got all these crazy creative type people to come along on our little adventure. And we're pretty proud of our first season.
Cool. Excellent. And I should add, make sure to introduce your characters too, who you played. Amy, how about you?
Besides writing the episodes, and I was also the question.
Oh, yes.
I would do the voice, except that this is pretty much it.
You are yourself as the question. Okay, Amy.
Hello, I'm Amy Shaw, and I played, let's see, Cupid, and it was a while ago. Sorry, I should have had some notes. I played Cupid, I played Catwoman, and I played Poison Ivy. I had a ball.
Excellent. And Kim.
Hi, I'm Kim. This is really easy, especially going after Shaw. I was the Golden Glider. I only had one this season, and I'm okay with that because Shaw is magnificent and we love her.
Excellent. Ryan.
Which one?
Oh, that's right.
Sorry, there's two of us.
Writer Ryan.
Oh yeah, that's me. I'm Ryan Dalton, author and recently amateur voice actor. I did some story consultation on the series with Kyle. We kind of brainstormed some stuff before he went off and wrote the scripts. I also played Lex Luthor.
Wahaha. Excellent. Thank you. And Tucson Ryan.
Oh.
Oh, I see his lips moving, but nothing's coming out.
I'm not hearing any audio.
Phrasing.
Which is slightly ironic, as he is the voice of. At the end, he's the one that says, gives the Legible Scrawl presents.
Can you? Is he still out? Okay, let's move to Steve. Steve.
Okay, moving on. And Steve is.
Steve is muted.
Steve is muted too.
Oh. Okay, there we go. Okay, yeah.
Nah.
Yeah, sorry, we can't get video on him, but we can still hear him.
Excellent. And Jelly.
Hi, I'm Shannon Jelly, and my part of the whole deal was just, being a very young and curious, aspiring writer, wanting to know what makes supervillains and rogues tick.
That's awesome. Thank you. And let's go back to Mr. Fitzpatrick.
Oh.
Still
no.
No.
May have to try logging out and logging back in. Other people had to do that a couple times.
Yeah.
Yes.
Have you tried turning it off?
Have you tried turning it off and back on again? As I said before, it's we're using Google Hangouts, and it's not the most perfect system ever, but there are some technical difficulties, and we promise he has a beautiful voice, and he is very well loved on our team. He is the wonderful man, the producer of the show, right? He did all of the technical audio technical work, as well as he's our outro guy. He says thank you to all of our wonderful viewers every episode, right?
That's right.
I'm not sure if I'm missing anything. Just
Ryan,
want to be sure.
Just move your lips and we'll speak for you. Right?
Yes. Anyways, you're welcome. Yell says you're welcome.
I'll speak for Ryan and say that he did lots of the technically soundy stuff and, you know, put things together that on their own weren't so awesome and made some really great scenes happen, especially when we had multiple actors in a scene. So I don't know if you were trying to explain that, Ryan, but I know that you really took care of that end of it and made it sound really good. So he did that.
Can you now hear me at all?
Yes.
Yay!
So my job was the technical aspect of that? About that. Yeah, as everyone said, I helped out with the producing it along with Shannon Jelly, and I had the privilege of doing the outro. You're welcome. Just had a good time with it. It was a great opportunity and great people to work with. So thank you to all of these fine people for making it an awesome experience.
Excellent. I'm glad that we were able to get everyone to introduce themselves. That's excellent. So, Kyle, let's turn it back over to you and the inception of this idea. Where did you start with this? When did you get the idea, this should be a thing, this should be a podcast? And, you know, how did it come to you and where did you go with it?
It started out as we were working on some of the projects we did for Phoenix Comic-Con. In addition to the podcast, we also appear at conventions and we do script readings and hopefully some other stuff. But while we were doing one of the rehearsals for that, we started talking about other things that we could do. And I've always wanted to do a podcast, but I've never really figured out exactly what to do with it. And we just started in the room, kind of started brainstorming about what would be done. And I sort of brought up an old idea that I had wanted to do for a while, which was I'd always had this idea for doing a group therapy session at Arkham Asylum. So having all of them, all the supervillains sort of in the room at the same time, all bouncing off of each other. I thought would be fun. And so it was, as we sort of went around, it's like, well, we could do one-on-one, and then it became, what if we could do that like that someone's interviewing them, and it just sort of started steamrolling from there. And then I sort of started thinking about a couple of the idea, and I went away that night and actually wrote the first episode because I was the idea just sort of already came to me, and then the whole thing laid out. And then with Mr. Dalton's help, I was able to sort of come up with a straight up narrative down the way, as he is the professional writer amongst us, the published author. And then sort of started to bring everybody else on board and say, okay, I've got this weird idea and I need a lot of actors, and what do you guys think, and you would be down for it? And everybody sort of jumped at the chance.
Hooray. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. I've certainly enjoyed it. Playing my parts as well, and I forgot to introduce myself besides just saying I'm Chris. I play the Riddler, the Trickster, and I believe a small cameo as Nightwing as well for one of our fellow actresses' episodes. But yeah, no, everybody is, you know, it's a great cast. I love all you guys, and I'm happy to be a part of this. I know everybody else is here. So let's go around one by one. And most of you are new to voice acting, right? What I want to know the challenges you guys kind of faced with trying to be somebody else, if that makes sense. You know, things that you might not have thought about that you need to really think about when you really get into these characters. And let's start again from Sean. Keep going.
Okay. For me, one of the biggest challenges was not hearing the recording after I'd done it. So this was recorded blind, just one, maybe two takes of the entire thing. There was no stopping and starting. So you just basically make a choice as an actor, quote unquote. You make a choice and you just go with it, and you are locked into that choice through the whole thing, and you have no idea what you could improve or not improve. So it's out there for all time based on that one decision that you make. The second thing that I think was tough was I had two characters that I thought might have really similar voices. One was Catwoman and the other was Poison Ivy. And it had been a while in between recording them, and since I hadn't heard Catwoman, I really wasn't sure what Poison Ivy was going to sound like, and I didn't want them to sound like the same character. So hopefully there was enough of a difference between them, but if I had to do it again, I would I'd make Poison Ivy just a little bit sexier.
So you mean your regular self, right, Shaw? Is that what you're telling me? Because you had to tone it down a little bit for the recording, right?
You know, there's only so much we can handle, right? It's too late.
Having spent a lot of time listening to all of your voices, that was a really great Poison Ivy you did.
Thank you. Thanks. Yeah. I think Kyle's exact words to me when I asked him about, Poison Ivy, I'm not sure which one to go for. There's been so many iterations of her. And he said, anything but Uma Thurman. That's a huge range that I could go for, and hopefully, something worked out.
Cool. Yeah, you did a smash-up job. Definitely brought the femme fatale to the series, for sure.
I loved it. I was grateful to play those characters.
Kimberly, what about you?
I would agree. I think I'm definitely a feed off of other people actress, so it's hard when I'm on my laptop in my room across town from these people. And so I think in my recording it was Kyle, not Steve, Crumbs. Now I can't remember because it was so long ago. So much has happened since then.
I think it was Scott because
It
I think
was Scott.
we were doing you and your brother. You were Captain Cold and Golden Glider back to back.
So it was you, me, Jelly, and Scott, and that was it. Just 4 people. Oh no, Ryan was there, wasn't he? He was consulting us. Maybe. No, I just wish you were there. That's what it was. And so it's really hard trying to feed and not read the scripts a bunch of times. I think was the hardest thing for me too, because I didn't want to sound over prepared, because it was very much supposed to be organic and give a life, and so for me it was really hard being by myself in my room, closed off, headset on, and that was it. So I am definitely a feed off of other people kind of girl, so it was kind of hard.
But you managed to overcome it.
Somehow, even though my laptop tried to die in the middle of it too.
Oh, while you were reading the script?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. That is definitely, technical difficulties are definitely the worst because you never feel more out of control, when your phone dies or your computer dies or, maybe you're trying to talk and nobody can hear you, right?
When your microphone doesn't work? I don't know what you're talking about. It was one of the many fun technical challenges we had in this project.
Oh, boy. Right? Jeez. Lots of fun. Mr. Dalton, what about you?
So I really actually enjoyed getting in Lex Luthor's head. Kyle can attest to the fact that we had a couple of conversations about where I was just trying to figure out which Lex I wanted to be. And ultimately, I like the Lex that feels like a dangerous aristocrat. And the guy who is kind of a balance of arrogant, but you could see that there's kind of a thug underneath as well. And he's got this veneer of finery, but he's nasty underneath, and so I really tried to get a balance of kind of wily, but a little bit arrogant, but not overly arrogant, and just almost like he feels like he just deserves whatever he has, and tried to kind of let that. I just tried to have fun with it. I figured someone like Lex would probably enjoy being Lex Luthor, so. I tried very hard to enjoy being him and feeling superior in the meeting night. So I tried to go. I mean, as much as an amateur can, just a little bit method to try to be him, and I had a ball.
but you're excuse me. You're a writer, so you always have these characters bouncing around and talking to you in your head, right? So it's not like something too strange that you had to work from.
Yeah, it definitely helped because I could come at it from a point of, well, if I was going to write and describe Lex, if I was going to talk about how he moved and how he spoke and his manner, how would I do it? And I tried to take that and craft a voice that would embody that a little bit. So it was fun. I normally am sitting typing when I write. I don't often get to do anything with audio. So being able to do something more physical was a blast. I loved it.
That's really cool. I'm going to bounce over to Steve now. Steve, characters. You are one of the more veteran types on our team that have lent his voice talent. Isn't that right? Hot, 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 hot. Yeah, there's already that camaraderie there, which is something that I personally really enjoy. And oh man, I'm going back and thinking about my own characters now. The one that I got to play the most, my episode, quote unquote, was the Trickster, which actually was probably one of the least known character out of all the ones that I've played. So I bounced around on YouTube for a good half a day, kind of looking at some of his lore and his scenes from different things. And watching Mark Hamill be the Trickster is a lot of fun. I thought that was really interesting to see him, especially after being the Joker for so long, switch to this kind of other tomfoolery sort of person. But I actually rather enjoyed the cartoon, the animated version of the Trickster more. And his outfit is definitely as zany as I imagine for the inmate that I was portraying in this the scene, because Mark Hamill's version, he from the scenes that I've seen, he's masquerading as this business elite guy, so he's not really wearing anything too crazy. But in the cartoon show, it's just this wild thing that he's just this loud, obnoxious thing, and I tend to wear things like that myself. I wear a lot of Star Wars swag. I went to QT this afternoon, and I was wearing this outfitted Star Wars jacket, and it has just all of like the characters going up and down it, and the guy behind the counter is like, "Okay, see you later, Darth Vader." I'm just like, you know. But I had a lot of fun with the Riddler as well, and kind of like how Shaw said, I really wanted to make a distinction between the characters, being, having all of these different voices. And I hope I did a good job myself, but when you really think about where these characters come from and such, I guess it helps make that distinction when you get into their heads, the acting method and stuff. And I'm going to shut up now and let other people talk since I'm the moderator.
I'm going to jump in here because, well, first of all, I have a friend who's a diligent listener to the podcast, so he'll give me his reviews after every episode, and he had a difficult time believing that the same person was the Riddler and the Trickster and Nightwing.
Wonderful!
Yeah, and I mean, and similar to some of the other casts as well. So it wasn't, not just, but just as you were talking about it, and he especially thought that Nightwing was really good because that was. Like, it was that unexpected thing, all of a sudden he drops in, and it was he thought he nailed that. Yeah, in the super nerdy version of it, I tend to think of our little part as its own like parallel universe to all the rest of them, and it sits at the intersection of the animated series, the Arrowverse, and the comics. So like in the Venn diagram of that, then our little thing would be right in the center. So we can pull from all of those things, but don't have to be married to any of that. Plus, I didn't want any actor to actually try and force themselves to sound like Mark Hamill or like Corey Burton or anything out. Just get a little close to it. You can use it as an inspiration, but I didn't expect Ryan to actually try and be Clancy Brown. But in that neighborhood is, as I said, you can be a neighbor. You just don't have to live in the same house as them.
Yeah, and it's always funny with these characters too, because you see these different iterations of characters, and when you're performing as these characters, you want to embody everything that they are, right? And it's the same for voice actors doing animation or live action. And so we're just kind of another iteration of that, right? Like, we can pull from these inspirations, but they are us. We are embodying them, and they are embodying us, right?
That's the hope.
and you were also the question for one of the episodes, you said, right, Kyle?
Yeah, just because my ego knows no bounds.
Ah.
Hey, if you write it, you should get to play at least one of them.
That's kind of what I thought. And plus, I decided to take one that's one of my favorite characters, but also one that only has sort of one version of him that I've ever done, so I had less to be compared to. I don't have to go up against the great Joker pantheon. I only have just me and Jeffrey Combs. That's it.
That's excellent. Now, Miss Jelly, our infallible reporter, who's in pretty much every episode. You are, of course, the central character. You play the central character to the entire series, as she climbs the ladder of villains, trying to unravel their minds.
Are we going to allow spoilers here, or are we going to?
I don't know. I was approaching this in a spoiler-free fashion, but I don't know.
We can.
I will defer to you on that.
We don't have to reveal the exact ending.
Yeah, there you go.
I don't know. I didn't have to play anybody, really, which sounds dumb. I mean, I have a character, and I didn't obviously actually go and interview any supervillains, but the only thing that was really a challenge for me was doing so many of them out of order, all of these episodes, because there's definitely an arc to my character, but sort of record in chunks. And so I would do like 4 episodes from the very beginning, then like a few in the middle, then a couple towards the end, because that's when people could schedule it, and then hop back to the beginning. And being mostly a Marvel fan, I actually didn't know who most of these characters were going into it, which I told Kyle. I was like, I don't know who these people are, so that'll make it really easy to sound curious when like I ask them about their life story, because I'm genuinely going like, and why did you turn to a life of crime? Like, those were easy questions to ask. So that part was easy, but the hopping around and trying to stay consistent to the story arc was really my biggest challenge. And then, yeah. But it was fun. I liked hearing different people do different voices. Like, I loved Shaw's Catwoman, and Chris, I really loved your Nightwing. Like,
thank you.
My job was to kind of like fangirl, but not too hard, like kind of seem like a member of a boy band. And I felt like you sold that really well and made it really easy for me to be like, Nightwing, like. So yeah.
How you doing? That's really cool. And how did you see yourself and your character grow as you continued and you recorded these?
Kind of almost like, in some ways, like 1 step forward, 2 steps back, because I feel like she would start to get somewhere and feel like she'd have momentum, but then she'd realize she didn't always have control over where that momentum was taking her. And there'd be moments where it's like, oh, I've got this, I'm so awesome. And then it's like, oh, sometimes the world is a very scary place and I don't like it as much. So it depended, because like there were some where my reactions were supposed to be like enthusiastic, and then without getting too spoilery, there was one episode that actually just made me really, really sad by the end. And so I don't know, but I felt like my character was the most, because she wasn't nuts, so normal was kind of easy. So yeah. I feel like I'm a horrible panelist. I love moderating, and now I just feel like I don't know what to say. Stop talking now.
It's hard being on the other side of it, isn't it?
This is lame. I'm going to a different panel.
No. I'm having a great time.
Don't worry, the head counters already came through. You've been counted. All right. You've already been counted.
I'm going to shift gears.
Ooh.
Tucson, Ryan, tell us all about your editing.
Yeah.
Oh,
hey,
poor Ryan.
let's not forget that he played two crucial roles besides being the driving force behind every
Right.
episode too. So we need to hear some of that stuff too.
Yes, please. Let's hear your characters.
You just never really noticed because
That's
they were
true.
both heavily edited.
Oh, how dare you! We didn't get that chance.
Did you want to play a computer voice? Although I think you would make a fantastic computer voice, Amy. I think you would have done great at it. Next time around, you can be Brainiac.
Ooh,
Okay.
female Brainiac.
Right. I'm okay with that. You know,
Or we need some kind of podcast where we make her some kind of like Cylon hybrid.
Oh, that'd be
I'm
too
so
perfect for
down with
Shell.
that.
Don't give me any more story ideas. I got too much to write on.
Let me grab a pen.
Mr. Fitzpatrick, tell us a little about your characters and what you went through.
So I played both Brainiac and Mr. Freeze, and it was an interesting experience because similar to what other people have said, I did have to at least get a little bit in the mindset of, what these characters are, what they're looking for, which, it sounds simple when you're talking Brainiac, but to actually truly talk with enough inflection that you're sounding like, it's a normal communication, but at the same time being a little off because it's a computer voice, a disembodied voice, is kind of an interesting challenge. Fortunately, I did get to go back afterwards and re-edit it. So, hey, I can play around with it and make it totally fine. But similar with Mr. Freeze, the editing wasn't as heavy, so you can hear at least a little bit of my voice in there, but it was, this very, very cold and kind of dispassionate character. And so, as some of the other people have talked about, playing with this mindset of how you get behind, talking that way when there's no one on the other side. Because what we all know that you all who are watching might not know is that we actually used a podcasting tool called TalkShoe to talk with each other in remote places. So, for example, when I recorded Brainiac, I was in Texas, I think. And half of us are in Phoenix on a regular basis, half of us are in Tucson. So, there's a lot of this kind of remote connection and the fact that we're not sitting right in the same room, we're not in the same studio. And so that presented some interesting challenges, both from the recording side of it and then from the, audio side of it. At the end of the day, we were limited by, the technical constraints of having this recording device and, as some people mentioned, computers going in and out and phone calls dropping because it was a place where you could call in. So it was an interesting experience to sometimes take these pieces that were disparate and broken and perhaps smashing them together and making them fit. And then, of course, I uniquely recorded the outro every single time. So I don't know how many times I have said it, but you're welcome.
Thank you.
Whoa, hold on. Whoa, you did every outro separately?
Yes. I wanted to make sure that the flow was proper because every time I had to uniquely identify the episode name, the episode number, the people who were in it, and I didn't just want to smash it together. And it only takes 30 seconds to record. So actually, a couple times I did it, and sometimes I did it on the fly because some of these times the editing was done at the 11th hour. Now you know my secret. When it got posted, it was
Never.
To be fair, some of the recordings were at the 11th hour too, so yeah.
Details.
You can't reveal all the secrets.
Well, Mr. Fitzpatrick, was there any technical editing on that side of things that you were worried about, when preparing, when we were getting this all together, but turned out to be just like a breeze, like the outro or anything else?
I'd say some of the toughest work he did was on the Magpie 2 episode. We had a lot of technical problems that he had to smooth over, and I can say that was done flawlessly. You would not know the amount of times we had to do that and all the pieces we gave
Oh
him
wow.
to assemble an episode for.
With that one episode, I think you had 3 dropped phone calls.
Oh.
So they'd actually done 2 takes, right? Both takes had a dropped phone call.
Oh,
And
jeez.
I was taking like, this part of this take works well, and this part of this take works well, and smash it together.
I never would have known.
Yeah, it was interesting. That was probably the most difficult one. But you ask about what was the most maybe kind of I was unsure about, and so the first time I added in any sound effects, I did without asking. Anyway, it was which episode was it? It was the episode with Peekaboo.
Oh,
There's this part where there's supposed to be this like vibrating noise to indicate, because Peekaboo's in the dark, to indicate, hey, your time is up. And I was reading the script, and it was well written in a way that if we didn't have anything there, you would have been able to tell by the audio control, or by the dialogue, that this was what was supposed to happen. Like the way the characters talk to each other, hey, what's that beeping noise? And that would tell our audience, oh, by the way, there was a beeping noise. But I'm sitting there and I'm like, I could do that. I could add a beeping noise. So I get out my phone and I set an alarm, a silent alarm on my phone. I set it next to my laptop and I record it buzzing. And then I edited that into be 3 or I think it was 4 separate little bzz, 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 bzz. And I totally snuck it in there. And it was, I totally would have, I wanted to talk to Kyle, but it was probably 11 o'clock or midnight. And so I snuck it in and I said, I'm going to see what happens. And the next day, Kyle sends me a message and says, that was fantastic. And I'm like, good.
Yeah, the bad side of that is once I knew that he had that in his bag of tricks, I started saying, so what else can you do? And so then I started doing things like, could you find the sound effect for a smoke pellet being dropped in a room? And he absolutely did.
Ooh.
Yeah, I set myself up for that one, right?
You opened the door.
But it was fun. It was good times.
Awesome. Now, Kyle, I want to talk about casting.
Absolutely.
So you created the character list, far ahead of time. How did you decide whose voice should go with what character?
A lot of it was just seeing. Some of you you had done a lot of stuff with for the script reads as we had done, but some people I barely knew at all. So a lot of it was if I could find someone that I thought would do very well. Like I heard Shaw do a couple things already, so I knew, okay, I can trust her with a sort of a bigger character like Catwoman. But then it's also just trying to find the right person for the right thing, because you could have a fantastic actress and a fantastic part, and they just don't work that well together. So it's trying to match sort of and also how they come across in recording, because there's some people who have. That's the nice thing about doing it audio is that you don't have to have the look. So I mean, like you can be wildly different physically than the character, taller, shorter, any kind of thing, and as long as you can do the performance the right way, then none of that stuff matters. So it was trying to find that way. And also, when you put stuff out there and say, like, I'm looking for this, just discussing it with Ryan, and saying, like, oh, I want to have Lex do this kind of thing. It was like, well, can I do that? So again, with the people who jump at it, you kind of go, okay, and then you sort of have to evaluate, like, would they actually be able to pull this off in such a way? And the nice thing about it being small is that, if we had gone a half an hour with them, yeah, maybe then the cracks might have started to show. But I think a lot of people you can give a really strong performance if you know that you only have 5 minutes to get in, get the great stuff, and then get out. But there's a lot of times where, like I said, I had people who I had never heard perform at all before. I just knew them conversationally, and it kind of had to match. Can they pull that stuff off? Because acting is a definite skill. Like, as you can see from my episode, I'm a little bit lower on the list in being able to pull it off. But with some of them, you have to be able to be able to read the script in front of you, because I mean we don't memorize like I don't expect all the actors to have them memorized. They're reading the scripts off in front of them. But being able to read and sound like you're not reading is a skill, and it is not an easy skill. Like I had respect for him before when I actually had to do it myself, and I realized, oh, I can't. All I can do is listen and respond. I can't be directing at the same time. So thank goodness Ryan was there on that episode. I can be like, was that terrible? Because I really have no idea. So finding people who can pull that off was an interesting challenge. And then some of it was also serendipity in terms, like with Mr. Fitzpatrick. I knew that there would be a lot of heavy editing. So that was the first one I said, okay, so for Brainiac, he's going to be entirely digitally assisted. So can you do that role and then also put the effects on yourself? Because I knew that if something had gone wrong, whatever, then he could fix it himself. So then once he knew to do that, I knew I could hand him Mr. Freeze, and it would be absolutely no problem.
That's very excellent.
Those are some fun calls to make, though, too, because we had 25. I used people multiple times, but there's 25 characters or more actually when it comes down to it that need to be cast. So I got to flip up my Rolodex and call some of my friends, like to say, hey, like there's for the guy who did Prometheus for me. Is an old friend from probably 10 years ago or so, not an actor, but I knew just because he had this amazing voice that I was like, that's like, I sort of just called up out of the blue, like, hey, I know I haven't talked to you in a couple of years, but I'm doing this weird thing, and your voice would be amazing for that, and could you pull it off? And I think he absolutely did. And I was, after we had finished the recording and he signed off, and Shannon was like, wow, that guy was really good. And I said, yeah, the amazing thing is he's doing Prometheus. He's like this big, imposing, he's got this deep voice, and he's this 5'4" Korean guy. Like, he's just this little dude, and he just has this amazing voice.
And he doesn't voice act at all.
I love that
exactly.
you didn't that at the end, because it was like so much easier to listen and record and picture him as being big and scary and imposing. It wasn't until later that you're like, oh yeah, no, he's not a big guy.
He's a shrimp.
Yeah. Yeah, he'll listen to this and go, hey, come on.
Rude.
I did you a solid. Now you're going to reveal me out on...
Next year he'll play the lesser-known villain, the Shrimp.
Yeah, that's right.
I'll get you, Batman. Was there any... What's that? I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Oh, were there any... What was your favorite one that you cast where you're like, yes, this is just perfect,
I don't know. There's so many of them that ended up so great. I'm on most of the recordings, so Shannon handled a lot of it, having to do double duty, acting and directing. But I try to get on as many as I can to direct, and I always have to have myself on mute because I end up giggling because I'm enjoying listening to this stuff come to life so much. One of my favorites was also another probably my oldest friend that. We hadn't worked together. We did some stuff during college, and we had nothing since. And I sort of called him up and said, would you do this? Would you do Scarecrow for me? And so he read this up, and it was sort of like one of those, yeah, I think this is going to be okay. And then listening to the recording going, oh, this is so much better than I had even anticipated. I mean, with most of the Legible Scrawl crew, I mean, I kind of know what they're about, and sort of they either match my expectations or exceed them. But then there's those ones that are far out there that I don't know, and I don't know how it's going to go. The same kind of thing happened with Batman. When Batman shows up, I had another guy that I had won a screenwriting contest at Phoenix Comic-Con a number of years ago, and one of the prizes was I got a reading of that screenplay, and there was an actor there who did the villain in the thing that I wrote, and was just amazing. But I had no idea what his name was, never caught it, and hadn't seen it in years. I had to do all this detective work to find the video that my wife had shot, and then show it to one of my friends who was in that room, and say, do you know who this guy is? And then found it, and then contacted him, and then he was able to come and do that. And I think he was amazing, so I'm hoping to use him again in some of our stuff. But from that, as talking to him about being Batman, he said, well, do you have a Joker yet? And I said, well, a couple people have been interested. Like, why? And he's like, I know a guy, and you need to see it. And so he sent us a video of Eric And so Eric, and then I talked to him, and then he sent me some audio files of, like I said, pieces of the script, and he recorded and sent it back, and I was like, oh yeah, this guy's good. So it was that that serendipitous thing of finding one guy who got us to the other guy, and then ends up being our Joker in the season finale. So that's always the discovery thing is always super fun.
Well, that's really cool. And this guy that you tracked down, that you played the super sleuth on, this is the same guy that beat me up, right?
It
As
is.
the Riddler.
Yeah, he's the one that bopped you on the head and took away your big Riddler monologue.
I know. I really liked it. Riddler was really small in that episode, I mean, but it makes sense for the scene that was playing out. But I really liked being Riddler in that one, especially like he's like, I'm awesome. Listen to me go.
Yeah, Riddler's actually one of my favorite villains, but I knew that would be a fun way of doing it because you put together that list, you kind of go, oh yeah, of course it's Riddler, and then you sit back and kind of expect, this is what it's going to be, and then pull the rug out from under you. That was kind of fun. Kind of like with when Magpie comes back too. I kind of like doing that stuff as. Yeah, you get used to a little bit of how the rhythms of an episode go, and then you do something to shake it up. That was kind of fun.
Switching it up. And it's so funny that, what is it, Riddler, he's inflating himself, and he's saying, let me tell you about everything. And then Batman comes in, he's like, no, you're done. And I don't know if you guys have all, I don't know, I remember either you or Jelly or somebody making a comment of like, wow, you sounded like you really got knocked out in that one. And I won't lie, for like the second take when you said that, I literally I karate chopped the back of my neck. Not like super hard or anything. Not like I didn't take a hammer to my head. Yeah, but I was just like, okay, listen, if I want to get this right, I'm gonna I want to make sure, I get it. I get it.
Thank you for suffering for your art.
Yeah, of course. It's what I do.
I went to different rooms of my house for the different phases, and there's one episode, I won't say which one it was, but I half hid in a closet for it because it was supposed to be extra dark and scary. I don't know if that makes me cool or really lame, but
no, you're getting into it.
Very Daniel Day-Lewis.
I'm going to put on your online profile that you're afraid of closets, so everybody knows.
I just needed a dark and cramped space to feel not in my own element. It was the Prometheus episode, if that makes any sense.
And I think it paid off.
Okay.
That leads into another good question, guys, for us actors. How did you guys really get into the characters? What were your favorite parts of being these characters? Shaw.
Yeah, the cat one. I have a cat. I have two cats actually. I adopted a new one, and she's so the little female kitten, and she's so feminine and elegant, and cannot be bothered with the rest of the world. And I thought that's exactly how Catwoman sounded in your script. The script that Kyle wrote was so specific to her being annoyed and fed up with where she was at the police station and all. And there's the blogger who wants to talk to me. Fabulous. And I thought, I'll use that. So I know it sounds dumb, but all I thought was everything she says is with minimal effort, because that's kind of how cats operate, the opposite of Deadpool, maximum effort. And that's just what I went with for her. Poison Ivy was just more, I don't know, I kind of pulled it out. But the one that I really, really worked with was Catwoman, because I had something I could actually work with, which was, trying to sound like a cat, I guess. I don't know if it worked, but like I said, you make a choice and you go with it.
Yeah.
That's what you get.
Everybody wants to be a cat.
Disney name checking, well done.
Kimberly, Kim.
I would say that it was really nice to get out of, I don't want to say my comfort zone, but someone who is very much not me. Anyone who knows me knows that I'm definitely all about the rules, and I'm definitely not about breaking the rules and being a master criminal. And so I think that was really nice, was getting into that role and just owning it. Like, I felt so freaking fierce, right? Like, I was just like, no, let's talk about boys, and let's talk about, like, it was really nice that I just got to like she became me and I became her, and it was one of those things where it was like a really quick scene, right? And you don't think about it, but I was like, I think about it, I'm like, I miss her. Because I don't run the red light when no one's around, and I don't do this, you know what I mean? So it was just, it was like, oh, it was really cool to slip into that, that ego that was definitely 180 from who I am in everyday life and what I've done with my life outside as an adult. And so it's really nice to slip into that. And so it helps when you have good writing and can just go, right? Like, it's hard to explain of just diving in and going and then that character becoming you. So I think that was the nicest and coolest part, but I didn't get to follow my cat around. I normally kick her out, so.
Not like I was doing listening to her and figuring it out.
I thought Shaw, for hers, she's going to say that. Yes, I was stroking my cat the entire time.
That would have been awesome.
Are we not saying phrasing anymore? Because that's fine if we're not, but.
Phrasing.
Thank you.
I'm going to remember you waiting at every red light now, Kim. No matter how long it takes.
I'm not saying I haven't, but I am saying that for the most part, Kim's life has been pretty straight-laced and following a specific path, and I am definitely not a master bank robber.
No, you jumped out of that for the character.
No, sadly.
Maybe plans to do.
No, I like not being in prison. I'm quite fond. I'm quite fond of my freedom and Wi-Fi and
hey, they have Wi-Fi in prison.
Maybe.
Perhaps.
But if I'm going down, man, I'm going for some serious ish.
Jeez.
I don't think I get Wi-Fi. I don't do anything half-assed. Let's be real. This is Kim Butts, and I do not do anything half-assed.
No buts about it.
No buts about it. Okay?
No, all buts about it.
All buts. All buts in it.
I'm also Tina Belcher, so. Butts. Sorry.
Butts. Mr. Dalton.
It's funny. I was telling Kyle recently that I realized I like playing power-hungry madmen.
I would have never guessed.
What a funny thing to realize about yourself. But especially like I loved playing Lex. He was the one role for season 1 that I absolutely was dying to play. We're talking about who I may play in season 2, and there's a part that I'm asking for that will allow me to go even deeper down that rabbit hole, which is dangerous. I don't know, but again, I guess it was fun just really owning that and for stepping into the suit of a guy who felt superior in every way, and just kind of letting that ooze through my voice. And even as I was like sitting in the chair and recording, I tried to sit with, a certain posture that I would have sat with if we were right in front of each other. One that's just kind of quietly arrogant, and it's because they say that whatever you do physically is going to go into your voice. You'll hear it even if it's subtle. So yeah, I tried to just be him as much as possible. I would smirk when I thought he would smirk, and yeah, it was fun just to be someone like that for a little bit. It was cool. Yeah, I would definitely do it again.
And you didn't even have to shave your head.
I didn't have to shave my head. Yeah, which was nice.
Okay.
Best part ever, right there.
Totally.
Mr. Fitzpatrick with the cold and the calculating.
So yeah, both of those were actually kind of fun because I remember in particular that in both scripts there was a moment of, well, for Brainiac, there was this moment of unintended humor Well, like it was intended from Kyle's perspective, but like Brainiac says something in a certain way, and he means it very, very literally, but you're going to hear it and you're going to kind of, if not laugh, kind of chuckle to yourself or used by that. So it was kind of fun to find that taking yourself very, very seriously as a computer would and being completely 100% all the time literal, and yet still having this somewhat emotional framework that he's trying to put out there, and it's in a conversation that is anything but literal. So that was just a lot of fun, just finding that little nuance. But I really enjoyed Mr. Freeze, because there's a moment in there where, well, I mean, basically, without spoiling anything, he spends the entire time on a soapbox, like preaching to Shannon, right? So he's on like the emotions are awful and you all should hate yourselves for having emotions, and I'm going to kill them in myself and try to kill them in everyone else, kind of is the mindset, which is just a fascinating way to approach it, because he's also emotionally getting on a soapbox and almost yelling at her the entire time. So it was this fun balance, and then he gets this moment where he talks about his wife, and it's this like 180 flip that was fun too. So it was a good time.
I'm just personally sad that we didn't get some Schwarzenegger, some heavy Schwarzenegger with the "Oh, nice to meet you."
That was a conversation that happened. I mean, it was really like we could do that. We could have all those guys show up too, and maybe as a side thing.
It'd be funny to kind of, if ever possible, we have all these colliding universes, to see these multiple, iterations of these characters, see each other and be like, really, you're me? Because sometimes they're just so drastically different. Especially
putting all those jokers in a room would be a very interesting time.
That would be bad. That would be very bad. Mr. Steve.
You still with us?
Is he with us? I don't see him on our camera anymore.
I just saw him.
Oh, jeez. Danger zone. That's cool. And what was your favorite part of those being those characters for each one? Like some people.
Wait, who are you talking about?
Oh no. I think, is that it? Did he just He's gone.
Well,
He's
actually,
gone.
he managed to say my phone died before it died. That was great.
Wow.
He knows how to make an exit.
He's like a 3-second wizard. He knew it would die right ahead of time.
That's a pro right there.
Time.
Pro Steve, pro. And Shannon, we got to wrap up soon, but Jelly, tell us your favorite part of you have so much time. What was your one favorite part?
Oh, geez. Just one.
Just one.
It was actually really hard. Like, there were some episodes that I really liked the way they were written. I loved recording Dalton's Lex Luthor, not just because I like the character, and it was one of the characters I knew, and it was a character that would make sense for my character to know. If that makes any kind of sense, if you followed that at all. But that was one of the ones where Kyle was on it, and there was actually some back and forth about like how we wanted that episode to end and like the pacing of some of his lines, and it just, that was one where I kind of felt like things came together in a neat way because it didn't stick exactly to the script, but it became something that fit really well. I don't know. I don't know. Tucson Ryan was a big help too, though, because with the Mr. Freeze one, like, that was one that I was encouraged to have a little bit more fun with, so that was good too. So, yeah. So we'll call it a tie with the Ryans.
Nice.
The Ryans got it. We got it.
They
I'll take
got
it.
it. They know what they're doing.
Okay.
Thank you, Jelly. And one last question I have for you, Kyle. You know, there's so many questions. We filled this time so too easily. You know, there's so much to talk about still. I want to look to the future. Where are we going next? What do you have planned next? What are you excited about?
Well, we are in production on season 2 right now. Things are coming together. We are venturing over into the Marvel universe for this one. Seeing some of those characters showing up. I don't know with this hitting at the same time as the holidays. I don't think we're gonna make 2016 for that. It'll probably be more in the spring. But in the meantime, if all goes well, there will be, besides this, there will be a special one-off episode that will air before Christmas. This will tide you over until we can launch fully in the new year. But then I've already sat down and figured out what I'd like to do for seasons 3 and 4 and 5. So there's at least that much ahead of us. We could, as long as the actors keep showing up, and it's not just me trying to do all the voices, we'll keep going.
So we'll be busy forever, is what you're saying.
As long as you still got a voice, I got words for you.
All right.
We'll keep showing up as long as you keep writing them words. For sure. Well, thank you so much, Kyle.
Thank you very much, Chris, for hosting this. I appreciate you doing the heavy lifting.
Yeah, no, not a problem. I enjoy it. I love talking to you guys. I love, doing this. That's why we're all moderators, right?
You love talking. It's okay. You can say it.
I love talking to people. I just love it. Right. And Shaw, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kim.
You're so welcome. Thank you.
Mr. Dalton.
He's gone. Lex Luthor's in his place, and you're welcome.
Oh, no. I'm terrified now. I'm very scared.
A little hot.
Not sure.
Sorry.
You're welcome.
Hey, wait, can I hear you? Jelly.
Bye.
Too normal, right?
Was that in character?
I don't have anything. I don't get any characters until next season.
She's just not used to being the last thing we hear in the episode, right? I mean,
What was that?
she's just not used to being the last thing we hear at the end of an episode.
That's right.
I know,
That's it.
right?
And it was a delight to also have Mr. Steve with us as well, who predicted his phone's death just moments before. But thank you guys. I'm Chris Campbell, and I will see you next season.
Yay.
Goodbye.
And Coach Ryan to the-
Bye.
Throw it to Ryan for the close.
This has been a Legible Scrawl production of To Prove a Villain Behind the Scenes. Written by no one in particular. Starring Amy Shaw, Chris R.K. Campbell, Kimberly Butts, Kyle Olson, Ryan Dalton, Shannon Jelly, Steve James, and Ryan Fitzpatrick. We'd like to thank you for tuning in to remind you that no villains were harmed in the recording of this show. Thank you for joining us on this villainous escapade. Follow us on Twitter at Legible Scrawl. Check out our Facebook page or drop by our website, legiblescrawl.com, where you're going to be the first to know what we cook up next. You're welcome.
Nice.
Hey!
Boom.